Hello and welcome back to the channel. HeirofCarthage here, and today I've got something special for you. This is going to be a 4v4, yes, 8-player team battle in Total War Warhammer 3. So for any of those of you who wanted to see something different besides the domination battles and wanted to see lots of different factions mixed together and going at it, this is going to be it. You all are going to like it. Now I'm going to start on this screen ahead of time so that you all can see the armies, and it'll be much easier for me to cover because there's no way I'm going to be able to cover all the troops once we get onto the battlefield. So we got Broken Wheel. He's going to be led by Kairos Fate Weaver. You can see bringing a little bit of melee here with some Forsaken, and then some pinks and a little bit of movement with Furies, some range with the Soul Grinder, and some support with the Burning Chariot. We've got Subtle Torture here, which is going to be led by Nakari, the Keeper of Secrets, and he's got 2 additional Keeper of Secrets, 2 Exalted Demonettes, and 4 Slaneshi Marauders with Hell Scourges. And we've got Nurgle, who is being represented by Kugath Plague Papa, and they have a Soul Grinder of Nurgle, which is a really good ranged unit, to be honest. And then there's several units of Forsaken of Nurgle, a couple of Plague Bearers, some Toads, and then a whole bunch of Nurglings to help add some hit points, essentially. And then for Khorne, bringing, well, what would be typical for Khorne, a very small but expensive army. We got Scarbrand and a Cultist who can do some summons, a couple of Skull Crushers, and then some Bloodletters and some Skull Cannons and Flesh Hounds. So that's going to be the Team 1, we'll call them over here. And then Team 2 has the Legion of Chaos, where they've imported a Demon Prince here. This is Grand Vomitus, Prince of Buboes. So he's going to be a Nurgle version of the Demon Prince. And we're going to have a Slaneshi Soul Grinder. There's going to be some Seekers. I believe they're Seekers. Yeah, Seekers of Slanesh, which are great armor piercing, some Toads, Furies, we've got Blue Horrors and Nurglings, so a lot of chaff here with a little bit of damage dealing component, and a Lord that's going to be mostly for support. And then we got Magathkin, and this is going to have Exalted Great Unclean One, which is a cool pick for a Lord. That's going to be pretty melee-centric. In fact, the Exalted Great Unclean One has huge melee damage capability. Another Soul Grinder for Nurgle there, 4 Rotflies, a couple of Toads, and then 5 Nurglings. And then finally, we got down here, the Western provinces represented with Miao Ying, and she's got herself the rocket battery, the fire rain rockets, that's what it is, and then the Grand Cannon of Cathay. The cannons are very good. I know the rocket batteries are okay if they have access to some blob targets. Then we have some Crane Gunners, a few Halberds, Peasant Archers, and Peasant Spears. Honestly, the Peasant Spears are pretty decent if you can keep them close to the right yin-yang harmony. They get quite a few buffs. We got the Great Orthodoxy led by Castalton. He's got an Elemental Bear, Lil Grom, a Zargard, a couple Streltsy, and then some Armored Cassars with Spears, and some Kossovite Dervishes. So that is going to be the armies. So let's go check this one out. As far as the map goes, this is the Turtle Fields, which is the Grand Cathay farmland. So there's going to be some rice terraces set up that give a little bit of terrain. And you can see there the deployment zones and who's going to deploy where. So I'm going to be excited about this one. Like I said, wanted to cover the armies ahead of time, and I will make sure to try and put a timestamp in the video in case anybody wanted to skip that. They can just skip to the battle beginning. But I feel like it's better to cover those armies where it is easily presented rather than on the battle map where it is not so easily presented. 1v1 would be different, but 4v4, kind of hard to cover them all. So now that we know the armies, I can get in here and get you all plenty of sweet cinematic coverage of this. So let me show you the deployments real quick, though, before we really dive in. So this is going to be the blue team, we'll call it, because they all have blue health bars. That's going to be your way to track it. And then we got the red team over here with the red health bars. You can see the blue team did Vanguard deploy a few Nurglings and some Chaos Furies, and they're going to go straight in and go for the Fire Rain Rockets. This is an interesting play, actually. Those units don't rout, so they'll fight until they're dead. And since those are Tzeentch Furies, they have a barrier. So interesting play there to try and take out the Fire Rain Rockets early. I like that. It's very gutsy, very risky. Now, the red team, don't get confused when they have Tzeentch units because they'll have a blue barrier on top. Watch that red bar right underneath it, because that tells you what team they're on. So right off the bat, we've got the Slaneshi forces here. They're going to be getting into some combat. In fact, we've got Nakari over here, but another Keeper of Secrets, and they're starting very close to the Blue Horrors of the Demon Prince. And out here in the middle, there's a huge fight getting underway too. We've got a bunch of Pink Horrors. And then here we've got some Marauders of Slanesh that are getting dived down on by a lot of units. You can see the Elemental Bear over here ready to guard his armies. Got Little Grom over here firing away, and then a Soul Grinder of Nurgle. Look at that Soul Grinder of Nurgle. They do some tremendous damage. So yeah, this is actually a really good ranged unit, not one to be underestimated. It does poison and AP damage, very good against expensive infantry targets. Little Grom I haven't actually experimented with much, because in my Kislev campaign I usually don't like being weighed down by artillery. But you can see Little Grom here facing off against some Skull Cannons on the other side, and there's Kairos, but we got a pretty fierce battle going on down here on the bottom. This is going to be some, I believe, those are Forsaken of Tzeentch. Flying in here. They're supported by a Keeper of Secrets. They're up against a bunch of Nurglings. It's some of the Hellscourge Marauders there. And then we've got some Exalted Demonettes. And then here comes some Forsaken of Nurgle and some Plague Bearers. So there's going to be a hard push here by the blue team onto the left flank of the red team. However, there are some tough units here. Look at this Exalted Unclean One that I mentioned to you all earlier. Look at the stats there. That's pretty disgusting. Like, not only does it look disgusting, like that's really strong. You can see the Kislev units. We got some armored Cassars standing behind, doing a little bit of support. Look at this. Burning Chariot just sitting above. Little Grom taking his wrath out on it. Not a whole lot that they can do about it at the moment. Got some Rot Flies that are going to try and help protect this flank. But this is a lot of disgusting Nurgle on Slaanesh action. Ooh. If that doesn't gross you out, nothing will. Let's check out how the Elemental Bear is doing. He's actually up against Scarbrand, which is probably not where he wants to be, but he does have the support of the Exalted Great Unclean One, and I imagine a Great Unclean One is going to give Scarbrand a lot to be reckoned with here. Scarbrand is very powerful. You can see his weapon damage there right now while he's got his abilities fired off. But I mean, that is... Ooh, that Elemental Bear got hit by the Gaze of Fate there. That's a huge debuff. Brutal. Little Grom already has a Chevron and 61 kills, so it must be doing something. And that Burning Chariot, though, is not laying off of him. On the right flank of the Red Army, they're doing quite well. And you can see that Khorne's basically holding back most of his army and holding for late, really just supporting with Scarbrand right now. Comes a nice spell here. Is this one going to be some kind of bombardment, but it doesn't look like it's gone off yet. Maybe it's a really slow windup. Yeah, there it is. That's the Slaaneshi bombardment right there. Shards, slicing shards. So not particularly effective from Nakari, but I do believe Nakari managed to chase off. Yeah, Castalton is almost dead here. Surprised he's surviving these charges from Nakari. He's going to take off running. So more success for the blue team over here on the left flank, less so on the right flank of the Red Army. Red team, I should say. I'm not referring to the Russian army here. So we've got the Elemental Bear firing off. I don't know how the bear really is. Like, I think they're okay in campaign, but something tells me that they're probably not great in multiplayer because of how expensive they are. They're probably kind of like the, what do you call it? The Dread Saurian would be my guess, that they kind of come out like that, where it's difficult to make them pay off because they're so expensive and they have powers, but you know, you have to be in the right position for those powers to come out. Yeah, the Elemental Bear does have support from quite a few Rot Flies and the Great Unclean One. That Great Unclean One is pretty strong, but I mean, he is starting to take a beating from Scarbrand, who has been kind of relentless, and Scarbrand is supported by Kairos. Kairos has been healing Scarbrand, and it's been helping a lot. Right there, you can see, for instance, the debuff. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff going down here that's affecting the battle, but still an impressive performance from the Great Unclean One, going toe-to-toe with what's supposed to be probably the strongest melee character in the game. Miao Ying has come over from the right flank of the red team, and looks like she may be over here to either give some support or come into melee. Surprised she's not in here trying to help finish off Scarbrand or going after these pink horrors while they are vulnerable. See Kugath's very slowly making his way up here, leaving a trail of diarrhea and other stenches in his wake, being carried around by the Nurglings. He's a very slow character, but in a late game, he is kind of a nightmare because he's going to have so many hit points. You see Nakari here, kind of overextended, trying to take out Little Grom, and then Castalton comes back trying to get some revenge for what Nakari pulled earlier. And check this out, this pendulum here from, or no, that was a whip thing from Nakari. My bad, I thought it was about to be a pendulum. That is ripe for a pendulum right here. See all this blob? That is just calling for a pendulum from Kairos if he has one. We'll see whether or not he does. But in any case, yeah, this is a wicked fight going on still so far. Elemental Bear just went down, so that's going to be a big asset for the red team that they're losing. Like I said, I'm not sure really how the Elemental Bear plays out yet in multiplayer. I haven't seen anything terribly convincing with it so far. Scarbrand is starting to take a bit of a beating. There's some Zinchi units shooting at him. There's a Soul Grinder he's tangling with. And it's getting pretty rough here. The Great Unclean One did finally go down, but not till after a really epic fight. So he put in a really solid effort there, I think, for the red team. Hyros has been an insane support unit. He's been around healing Scarbrand and then just coming in for attacks whenever he feels like it's opportunistic. He's got 174 kills, which means he's either gotten in some good Vortex or some good Pendulum. If I'm looking at his spells, it looks like Pendulum is probably what he pulled off. Yeah, anyway, the Skull Cannons are out of ammunition. They're going to go into melee. So they're not bad. They're decent chariots whenever they go into melee. See over here, Kugath pushing in. Let's see what's left for the red team. They are being attacked by the forces of Khorne that came out of the woods late, so let's go get a look at that. It's going to be the Demon Prince down here with some Toads and Furies trying to fight back some Skull Crushers, which are a heavy cavalry here. So far, the Demon Prince holding his own. The Skull Crushers are actually going to be better, probably mostly against infantry, and they're a little bit outnumbered. They got a Slaneshi Soul Grinder and Miao Ying here pushing them back as well. Looks like they did get a hold of the Grand Cannons for Cathay. Probably finally silence them. The Fire Rain Rockets are still alive, but out of ammunition. This is a nice summon here. These summons can be really useful. Look at that. That summon has already picked up almost 50 kills. So those Bloodletters were a really nice summon into these Peasant Spears. Almost 60 kills, so you can see just how effective that summon ability can be for one of the cultist units, depending on what it is they summon. Here comes Scarbrand pushing forward. He's got the support of that Nurgle Soul Grinder. He's got the support of Kugath now. And Kairos right there as well. So as far as single entities go, I feel like the blue team is at a bit of an advantage right now. Miao Ying is powered. Look at her bouncing around. I don't know what this is. It's almost like the dragon was trying to leg hump some of those Nurglings or something. I don't know what was going on. We got the Soul Grinder, Miao Ying, and the Demon Prince. And if we take a look at this particular version of the Demon Prince, he is good against armor and infantry. Not particularly powerful in melee. It looks like maybe a bit more of a support variant, though it does have poison attacks. There are some Jade Warrior Halberds and some other units to support, but I don't know how you're going to cut through Kugath Plague Papa over here with just this melee. So I feel like the blue team has an innate advantage here just because of Plague Daddy over there having so many hit points. It is going to be near impossible. Got some Miao Ying on Scarbrand action going on here. A nice tail whip from the dragon. The Demon Prince is going to join in. Remember, Scarbrand is significantly weakened after having fought like crazy for the entire battle. So I don't imagine he's going to be able to survive against these two monsters that are attacking him. They will eventually take their toll on him, but he's tough. He's still got quite a few hit points, and Hyros can still support him as needed. He doesn't really have much healing left that he can do. Well, yeah, it looks like that's what's going to happen, though. So whatever little bit of healing he's got left, they're going to give him. I guess that makes sense since she causes such good weapon damage, even wounded. I mean, he's severely wounded here because of the hit point level. You can see he's still fighting on quite impressively. Kairos is actually going to go ahead and dive down into melee now as well. And why not? At this point, I think late in the battle, it's pretty safe. So we got Miao Ying going here, and it looks like the Demon Prince is going to ignore Kairos. Good plan, honestly, because Kairos' barrier is just easy to take advantage of later in these games when there's very little that can hold him on the ground or shoot him. He can charge in, fight till the barrier's gone, and then get out and come back and repeat. So if I were them, I would definitely want to ignore Kairos and go for Scarbrand, which is what they do. Scarbrand goes out of the fight, and now you're going to see the three of these focused on Kairos, who's not really well suited to a melee. He's not terrible, but he's going to get beat up fast in here if he doesn't get some support or get out of there. And speaking of support, slow but steady apparently wins the race, because here comes Commode Daddy Kugath, and he is going to be rolling up in all of his stench glory, ready to throw some weight around in this fight. And he is going to be a force to be reckoned with this late into the game. Like the Great Unclean One, he is surprisingly decent in melee. You shouldn't underestimate him. If you look there, He's got 550 weapon damage and huge defense with the ability to buff it further, and he's also got poison, which slows down the weapon damage, speed, and I believe leadership of the enemy, so it's brutal. So Kugath is really a problem to deal with late in the game, and I don't see how the red team is going to pull it off. Like, they don't have what they need. You're going to need some missiles to help plug away at Kugath, and they've lost a considerable portion of their missiles, only a few peasant archers left. So to melee Kugath down would take near an eternity, and at the same time, you saw his melee stats, like you're going to take a lot of damage in return. This Skull Cannon must have gotten a little bit of ammo from running around in melee because it's back here firing again. Looks like its shots hit a helpless peasant house though. So the rice farmer is going to have a big Skull Cannon hole in their house. We're going to have the Slaaneshi Soul Grinder taking on Miao Ying here, while Kugath has to once again slowly make his way up the rice terraces, so that's the downside of Kugath. He has like almost zero movement. See, that Soul Grinder is just going to move away and try and get their barrier up, and they're going to trade out, let Kairos take over this fight because his barrier is recharged. So like I said, this is going to be the challenge of Tzeentch units late in the game, where you have less to shoot at them and less to hold them down. Their barrier is going to become very, very viable because they're going to be able to recharge it without you being able to contest it very well. So you got to make sure you have those missiles around. I'm going to keep the UI up so you all can kind of see the fight play out here. That Demon Prince is definitely outnumbered now. He's got a Burning Chariot, a Soul Grinder, and Kugath has almost 15,000 hit points. So good luck trying to take those away. It's just not going to happen. Miao Ying is decent in melee, really not bad, but she is no match for all this. And to use most of her magic, she has to be in human form. So any magic support she can lend is going to be limited because she is in dragon form. That's kind of the drawback, right? So human form is where she's going to be more of a beast of magic, and then the dragon form is where she's going to be more of a beast of melee. You kind of have to pick one or the other. In this case, I think the red team's feeling desperate for melee, which makes sense. There are a few peasant spears that are going to get in here and try and help, though I don't imagine they're going to last terribly long in this fight. I believe these Slaaneshi Marauders are part of the blue team. They are. So the peasant spears are going to be in bad company, plus there's a chance they just get terrified and leave. Because there's a lot of big monsters around right now that probably cause terror. See here the Demon Prince, totally outmatched, being driven back. You can see that they want to go after Kairos, and again, that makes sense. They don't want him to get his barrier back, but Kairos is going to fly around and make that difficult. Meanwhile, Miao Ying transforms. I believe she was hoping to use some magic. But immediately Kairos dives on her. Starts trying to do some damage, so Miao Ying's going to be stuck in human form for at least a short period of time. And again, maybe it was to heal. I don't know. I didn't see any spells go off there, but Miao Ying does get a chance to heal. She's in human form, but you can see the battle is definitely souring against the red team here. They just don't have the forces to fight their way through this, and with the Tzeentch units recharging that barrier, it's looking rough. Yeah, you can see Miao Ying here getting really low, being debuffed. She may be able to get transformed, but right now her small size is actually probably keeping her from taking as much damage because it's easier for her to kind of hide in the midst of that melee without being hit as much. So she's doing all right. She's doing all right. Let's check this out here. We've got Kairos duking it out. He's being supported by that Soul Grinder. The Demon Prince got healed. I believe that's what Miao Ying was up to. She was definitely dishing out some healing, trying to keep her units in the battle longer. If they had more infantry support here, it's possible they might be able to fight their way out of this, but they just don't. Most of their infantry support's gone. That one just routed off the battlefield. So I don't see how Miao Ying and the Demon Prince fight their way out of this one. That was a pretty nice last-second attempt there, at least, to bring back some hit points. That Cultist and the Skull Cannon are back here harassing Miao Ying at the moment. I imagine she's going to try and transform as soon as the cooldown's finished. See, it's a spell going down here. Brand Vomitus with some poison there. I don't know what this spell is. I haven't seen that before. That was very effective. Holy cow. That chewed up a bunch of those Plague Bearers. I think that was from Miao Ying, actually, because that was a dragon-looking spell. Yeah, she did. She chewed up all those Plague Bearers there, so that was another good last-second play there. She's going to transform back into the dragon, get herself out of that melee, and try and make herself stronger, so... Not going down without a fight is Miao Ying, so an impressive performance. Now she's going to get into melee with Kairos, and this is a melee that Kairos would lose, almost certainly. However, Miao Ying is badly damaged, and doesn't really want to stick around in that melee with Kairos. It's understandable. It's a pretty solid, but look at this. Kugath in this fight the whole time still has 13,500 hit points. Like, the guy just can't be killed unless you have enough missile units. He is just way too much of a tank. Way too much of a tank. Yeah, Grand Vomitus is eventually going to have to give up the Ghost, give up the Vomit. Just not going to be able to stay in this one. Kugath is just going to have too much staying power. Kairos is finishing off Miao Ying, and he's got the Burning Chariot and Skull Cannon to help. So Miao Ying is shattered. Now remember, she doesn't disintegrate because she's not a demon unit. And that's going to be the end for Grand Vomitus, being vomited on by his plague better here. So a couple interesting things I think to note from this battle. One, it's going to be interesting, especially when we get all of the game 1 and 2 factions mixed in here, to see how they mix with these factions. This game is beautiful. Looks absolutely good. CA put out some fixes and a hot fix. Hopefully that's going to mean more custom multiplayer lobbies. Appreciate Holy Pilgrim and all the people who played this. They were all from my Discord. So appreciate them sending this to me and giving me the opportunity to show you all a very cool replay here. Getting the opportunity to see what team battles are like in Game 3. Now, I will be playing some multiplayer. I've just been in a very busy time with recording and work, and as I start to study this out and figure out the right balance, then I will definitely be getting into more multiplayer, probably with my Discord, most likely. So nice kills here from Kairos. Not a ton of damage value, but boy, the Soul Grinder did very well. Good value out of the Burning Chariot as well. Take a look at Nakari's forces here. Very, very nice gold value damage out of Nakari. Not surprised with the huge damage Nakari brings, and he must have been chewing on some single entities to get that much value with that few kills. Look at this Demonette here, 218 kills, 254. This Exalted Demonette, just give you an idea of how much damage Slaanesh can do if given the opportunity. The other two keepers did not do so well, but Nakari did. We got Kugath here, who did very well, 2,000 damage, barely touched. His Soul Grinder did over 2,000 damage. Nice damage out of those Forsaken of Nurgle as well. So a good performance for Kugath. Let's take a look at Scarbrand. 7,228 gold damage value. That is absolutely obscene. And that was with the help of Kairos, who was giving him some heals. So it shows you how much damage Scarbrand is capable of whenever he's got another Lord with him supporting with the heals that he so badly needs. If we take a look here at some Exalted Bloodletters, they picked up about 1,200 value, not a bad performance. The Cavalry, not so much. They got bogged down with a bunch of units that they couldn't really hold off. But Scarbrand bringing in almost all the value for his team. Let's take a look at Grand Vomitus. Not a bad performance here from him at 2745. And the Soul Grinders appear to do well in these fights as well. Seekers did a good job in terms of kills. Not surprised. Seekers and Heart Seekers do insane damage. Really fun units. The Exalted Great Unclean One pulling in a lot of damage value as well, so particularly well fought. That Soul Grinder pulling in a little less than I would have thought. He must have gotten caught in melee and dispatched before it could get more. Miao Ying there doing a ton of damage too between those spells and her dragon form. So a very impressive performance. Let's see how the cannons did. Not well. The Fire Rain rockets maybe paid for itself, but the Grand Cannons did not get the right targets. They are actually really good against large targets from what I've seen. I think they could be good. Kastalton, I guess not bad for his cost. The Elemental Bear, definitely not. And Little Grom, probably okay for the cost value there. But Kislev struggled in this one in terms of trying to get a lot of value for their units here. But hope you all enjoyed this one. Nice 8v8. If you did enjoy it, let me know. We'll try and get more. And we will always have more content coming for you on the channel. I got Kislev campaign coming up soon. Be followed by Tzeentch campaign. We've got Ogre streams on Tuesday and Thursday nights at 8 p.m. U.S. Central. And then, of course, we're also running the Satsuma campaign at the same time for those of you who like the historical stuff. So keep an eye out for all that as the week comes along. And I'll be sprinkling in some multiplayer stuff as we go. HeirofCarthage signing out for now. Hope you all enjoyed it. I will see you soon.